There are more than 13 million single parents in America, and 80% of those others. How are they supposed to survive in this type of environment?
So what's really unfortunate in this moment is that many families are hanging on by just a bare thread. And the inaction at the congressional level or at the federal level is really disheartening to see, because women and working families don't have many sources of income, especially women of color who before the pandemic were struggling or had little to few savings. And when we think about women who are breadwinner mothers, those are mothers whose income makes up or contributes about 40% of the household income, are more disproportionately likely to be breadwinners. And so when they lose their jobs, there's no income coming in at all. And as we know, 865,000 women exited the workforce, and many of those are Black and Latino women who had to choose between raising and taking care of their family and going to work, because as we know, many of those workers don't have the choice to work from home or remotely. In order to get paid, they have to show up. And so, when we think about the immediate, what we need right now, people need money and cash in their pockets, and the inaction at the federal level, again, almost ensures that won't happen. And again, as Stephen pointed out, with the new administration, it's highly unlikely, or there's going to be a bit more stalemate, and that's just not.
Here's one for the subs. It's shout out to one of my think tank members, Julius Garcia. He always comes through. And I was joking with Craig, the tech guy, go check him out, that I wasn't arguing with him, I was laughing with him, so to speak, about starting a rent-a-homosexual service for working mothers. Because during COVID, the biggest daycare center in the entire world, the United States public school system, isn't really functioning. So a lot of single mothers are having to choose between the kids being home by themselves or having to go to work, and a lot of them are leaving the workforce and struggling. And to that end, we have a Essence article. Shout out to Essence, the gynocentric Black site. That's coming through with one of these articles. There's been lots of these, and I might do more of them. The struggle is real. Working Black mothers, child care, and COVID-19. Providing full-time child care and being a COVID full-time worker from home, mom is unstable. Today I survived another COVID-19 pandemic workday. As I finished this article at 4:30 a.m. and as I prepared to get into the bed at the start of a new day, I reflect on how the workday started. I tiptoed past my sleeping 5-year-old son and 2-year-old daughter. Wished my husband well as he left our home to work full-time in an essential role off-site. Then I hurried to my home office to begin work in hopes of getting as much done while uninterrupted before our sleeping children arose. Sounds like a good old-fashioned mom. After working on various projects, I joined my first virtual meeting for the day. 30 minutes into my meeting, I see my toddler daughter entering the room from behind. 15 minutes later, I see my son enter. My tiny co-workers have arrived for the day. I acknowledge their presence with meeting attendees and continue conducting the meeting, occasionally going off camera and muting as needed as my toddler asked me to identify animal cracker shapes. By now, frequent business partners know that we are a package deal, as we can't take the health risk of enrolling our children in an in-person school or daycare. Far from an unusual occurrence, and certainly not minor compared to virtual kindergarten while working, wiping up spills while working, tripping over toys while working, announcements of bathroom needs while I'm on the phone, praying I make it through my business IG lives. and a good old-fashioned toddler meltdown. It was, thankfully, a less eventful COVID-19 pandemic workday. And although I know that these are unprecedented times, I still wonder what I could have done differently to create a better balance. Not only did I survive the workday, I survived the guilt of feeling frustrated because I am not able to be as productive as I was when I had structured daycare and was able to work independently. Knowing that my feelings of frustration about not being able to accomplish what I could prior to March 2020 is rooted in my inability to limit the amount of childcare related interruptions stings deeply as I adore my kids, love being a mom, value quality time with my family, and feeling blessed to have the privilege to work from home and for myself. However, providing full-time childcare and being a COVID full-time work from home mom is unsustainable. And although I survived the day, the wear and tear on my physical and mental health was real. And as a Black woman, I deserve more than trying to survive the workday while trying to survive the deadly health risk of the pandemic. Why do they always get that I deserve more? I don't get that. Black women always come with that I deserve more. The lack of childcare to meet my family's needs feels very isolating, but in reality, it is a systemic issue that is creating a pandemic within a pandemic for working mothers. And as a Black woman trying to survive this pandemic, I know that I am not alone. According to a report released by the Century Foundation and the Center for American Progress, 4 times as many women as men dropped out of the labor force in September. Roughly 865,000 women compared to 216,000 men. And many of us who are bearing the grunt of the full-time childcare while working full-time don't have to ask why. However, because of systemic inequalities that created a lack of generational wealth, they put critical race theory in everything. This is hilarious. Generational wealth and unequal pay. Black and Latina women are least likely to opt to drop out of the labor force, as they are more likely to be the sole breadwinner in families or to have partners working outside of the home during COVID-19. No shit, Sherlock. How about all the white women are doing the same thing? Jesus Christ. Anyway, compounding the issue further, Black mothers are twice as likely to be responsible for all their family's childcare and housework during COVID-19 compared to white women. Even in a global pandemic that threatens our lives and that of our loved ones disproportionately, we still have to be superhuman. Here we go, strong, independent Black woman. Despite the many issues parents face in obtaining adequate child care, many parents aren't aware that there is a resource that may provide some temporary relief. In March, Congress passed 2 paid leave provisions under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act for a family who need child care, but provisions expire on December 31st. Systemic barriers created by policymakers such as unequal pay, lack of paid sick leave, and lack of affordable child care are exacerbating the impact. You can't have child care, dumb broad. The state doesn't owe you child care. They complain about everything. You're allowed to work at home. What if you had a job that didn't allow you to work at home? Anyway, continue. Exacerbating the impact that the pandemic has on working Black mothers, underscoring the need to address these inequities that plague Black women disproportionately prior to COVID and after temporary aid has expired. The Center for American Progress reports that Black and Latina women have the largest drop in their employment to population ratios since February, and jobs for Black women are returning 1.5 times slower than their white counterparts, with only 52% of Black women saying they have enough income to support their basic needs during COVID-19, compared to 71% of white women. How can parents working during the pandemic or entering the workforce after unemployment afford the extraordinary cost of child care, with the average cost of daycare being over $9,000 a year? Many parents, particularly low-income parents, report that they will not be able to return to the pre-pandemic child care arrangements. compared to middle or high income parents. This hardship will likely disproportionately impact low income parents of color, forcing them to leave their children in less safe, unsustainable child care settings. Research examining overall wealth found that the median wealth for single black women as parents is zero compared to $14,600 for white women and $41,410 for single white men as parents, leaving many black women-led households without the safety nets to leave the workforce, even temporarily to provide child care and homeschool as compared to some of their white counterparts. So far, let's cross our fingers. They're not blaming black men for this yet, but don't give up. The peace isn't over yet. The economic impact of the pandemic is being felt disproportionately by black women and women of color. Why do they always add the two instead of just saying black women? Hold your nuts. With half of the black households being headed by single women and 38% of the households living below the poverty line, thus making stable child care less accessible. Black women across the socioeconomic status are experiencing extraordinary levels of stress as they shoulder the weight of the pandemic with inadequate child care, increasing risk of poor maternal health outcomes for black women of childbearing age. Oh, she's part of a social justice firm. Okay. Like I said, rent a homosexual. Now this chick is complaining. She's complaining her ass off. Now you got many women and many people facing eviction because of COVID-19 where they cannot work, including millions of white men. They cannot work. They're getting ready to be put out onto the street. They have to line up in food lines to get food. And this chick at the very beginning complains about the stress that she can't work to her peak performance. And basically what she's saying is the kids are getting on her freaking nerves. And she depended on childcare and school to function so she can structure her day. And she can be that independent woman. Now she's forced to be a freaking parent and she's going nuts, which is something I've heard continuously during COVID-19. Women can't stand their own children because the state has isolated children from their parents. So basically, you don't raise them. They're gone for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. And you're gone 9 and you send them to after school daycare and then you pick them up. You don't even see them. You don't even see them. And that's the problem. Now that these kids are getting on your freaking nerves, now everybody's flipping out. Now we know why the family was designed to have 2 parents in the first place. And so now we're crying about single mothers that made the choice to be single mothers, didn't get with their fathers to help with any of this because there's no mention of talking to the fathers and working with the fathers so we can work out this daycare. Oh, woe is me. I hope the state steps in and redoes everything so single mothers can survive. That people adapt. People all over the world are dying and getting sick of this stuff, sick of this COVID-19. And as soon as the system breaks, women start whining, black women especially. There's one thing I haven't heard during this COVID-19 pandemic is that strong independent theme. They haven't said shit. Black women ain't said shit about being strong and independent since March. If you notice that. In fact, the rhetoric against blaming black men for stuff has gone way down. Now they're complaining about how they need us, how black men should come back. And now we don't even hear that stuff about settling anymore. Because now they're all willing to settle, especially those 92 octane chicks that had babies by themselves and used the state and paid daycare to basically be a parent. Now they're crying because this is impacting their job because now either one or two things, they can work from home and keep the kid and have to sit in class all day monitoring the kid while the kid's on Skype, on Zoom, taking Zoom classes. Trust and believe, I sit in Zoom class every day with my grandson, so I know how irritating it can be. Nobody wants to be in whatever grade you're going to be. Nobody wants to do elementary school all over again. Nobody wants to hear the teacher monitor a class. It drives you nuts. I know it does. I know it's irritating. But it is what it is. That's your job as a parent. And all I have one thing to say to black women complaining about this: suck it up, Cupcake. This is parenthood. Nobody said it's all going to be so butterfly and roses. Okay, doesn't work that way. Perhaps after this is over, you're going to have a whole lot of patience, and all that impatient, demanding attitude that you have will go away. Just like this chick demanding that the government do something. The government don't have to do squat. It's called an act of God. And you have to do your best to hold on to whatever life you have. And instead of being thankful that she has one, off-site job, and two, a husband that can actually go outside the house and do the heavy lifting. Because trust and believe, if it wasn't for him, you'd really be struggling. If it wasn't for him, you'd really be struggling. Instead of being thankful that you're not like the rest of these women, which she never said she was, they're constantly complaining, demanding that the United States do something about health care and child care. Oh, black women are going to get a wake-up call. 2020 was just start. 2021 is going to give them a wake-up call. They are headed to their road to Damascus moment. And trust and believe, black men have not forgotten. Black men are not going to simp out this time. They're going to extract a high price. I do mean a high price for their cooperation. I can hear it now. I can hear black men tuning up already. And the one thing I say about COVID-19, as bad as it is, and it is bad, and it is wrecking economies all over the world, I can say one thing about COVID-19. There is a sense of justice about it. I always say this for the last, 4 or 5 years, man. Sometimes karma is a bitch. And sometimes when karma visits you, she ain't very nice. And a black woman's karma is way overdue for what you've done to your men. And the wheels on that bus go up and down, but they also roll both ways. And just like you back the bus up over us, you think that when it's your turn that you won't get rolled over? You got another thing coming. Anywho, with that, I'm going to bounce off of here. This is BGSI. I will see you guys on the next one. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all over your back.